Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. First of all, thank you for that very generous and very long introduction. All praise belongs to Allah, and I lay no claim on it. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes me better than what is said or expected of me. Distinguished members of the Institute of Objective Studies, colleagues, panelists, and respected elders, it is a great privilege and honor for me. The launch of a book on the life and contribution of Dr. Nejatullah Siddiqi Rahmatullah alayh. I am deeply grateful for giving this for the Institute of Objective Studies for giving me this opportunity to reflect on and celebrate the remarkable legacy of Dr. Nejatullah Siddiqi. You see, communities, families, and nations reveal their identity and values through the people they produce, but also the people they remember and the people they honor. Today, as we gather virtually and in physical form in Delhi, from different corners of the world, we pay tribute to one of such extraordinary individuals, Dr. Nejatullah Siddiqi Rahmatullah alayh, Allah yarhamu, whose contributions have shaped our understanding of Islamic economies, Islamic economics, and finance, and whose moral and intellectual courage continues to inspire us. I will start with I had the distinct privilege of knowing Dr. Nejatullah Siddiqi in three aspects of my life. First, as a young person growing up in the campus of Aligarh Muslim University. Second, as a student at Aligarh Muslim University, exposed to his pioneering ideas. And third, as a professional working to implement his vision in the field of Islamic finance. Growing up on the AMU campus, my earliest impressions of Dr. Siddiqi were formed through the eyes and words of my late father, Professor Iftikhar Ahmad Khan Rahmatullah alayh. My father held him in very high regards, not just as a scholar, but as a paragon of integrity, humility, and nobility. He was to my father the quintessential example of what it means to be an academic in the service of humanity and faith. It was only in 1974, my first year at the university, that I first met Dr. Siddiqi on a one-to-one meeting, courtesy my father. He spoke at length about Islamic economics, Islamic banking, and equity in society. He recommended me a reading list, which to my surprise includes reports like the Club of Rome report and the work of economists like E.F. Schumacher, Small is Beautiful, Small is Possible. And I was quite surprised that I thought he would give me only a reading list of Islamic economists. But he said it's very important that we take all human knowledge and benefit from that. He was also the first person who taught me this dua, Allahumma anfani bima allamtani wa allamni bima yanfani wa zidni ilma. And Allah increase me in knowledge. These conversations left a lasting impression on me. Little did I realize that at that time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had plans for me to follow his aspirations, his role models, and actualize some of his ideas in my professional journey as well. I want to talk about the courage of his conviction. In 1975, when Mrs. Gandhi declared a state of emergency in India, many intellectuals and political leaders were imprisoned, including Dr. Siddiqi, for a brief period of time. My father, deeply concerned about this injustice, visited him in prison multiple times. He also took the matter up with senior officials, including Prime Minister's then advisor, Yunus Khan, arguing that you cannot imprison thoughts and you cannot imprison ideas or scholarships. After his release, my father worked very closely with the then Vice Chancellor, Professor Ali Mohammad Khusro, to make sure that Dr. Siddiqi was appointed of the West Asian Studies at the Illegal Muslim University, as a role which he continued to advance the intellectual and spiritual mission of the university. I want to move on to professional influence. Years later, when my own career brought my early days of my life and Dr. Siddiqi's influence became even more profound, I vividly recall delivering a talk at Kennedy Hall in Illegal Muslim University, where he was not just present, but actively encouraging and mentoring me and sharing my talk. It was a humbling moment to have both my father and Dr. Siddiqi in the audience as I spoke about the concepts that he had pioneered. Many of the frameworks that I have worked on, from the development of HSBC Amana, where we democratized financings and democratized wealth and philanthropy, to structuring of Mudaraba-based financial intermediation, which is what we do today in the area of Islamic asset management, can be traced back to the seeds he planted. Today at Capital, much of our work is aligning finance with ethical principles, owe their foundation to Dr. Siddiqi and his groundbreaking ideas and thoughts. Now let me turn quickly to legacy and vision. Dr. Nejatullah Siddiqi was not just a scholar, he was a visionary. He redefined the relationship between faith and finance, demonstrating that Islamic principles are not barriers, but enablers of economic justice and prosperity. His writings continue to serve as a beacon for policymakers, academics, and practitioners like myself. What made Dr. Siddiqi's work so impactful was his ability to merge deep Islamic scholarship with modern economic thoughts, addressing the challenging needs of our time without compromising the essence of our values. He showed us that faith and reason can work together to build a better, a fairer, and a more just world. In closing, as we reflect on the life and times of Dr. Nejatullah Siddiqi, we must also commit ourselves to carrying his legacy forward. His work reminds us that ideas rooted in faith can transform societies, and that knowledge must always be shared and accompanied by action. I stand here today not just as a witness to his greatness, but as someone who has deeply shaped someone who has been deeply shaped by his thoughts and principles. I am profoundly grateful to have had the opportunity to learn from him and to have played a small role in implementing his vision in the field of Islamic finance. In conclusion, I would like to thank the Institute for Objective Studies, all the great panelists and scholars, and I am very, very grateful for this opportunity. I have just come back from a condolence meeting and the funeral of my uncle, my mamu. I'm sorry I took this call in the car, but I had to take this call because people like Dr. Nejatullah Siddiqi are far and few in between. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raise his muqam and grant him Jannatul Firdaus and bless his family and his grandchildren and everybody else who has worked with him. Thank you so much.